So we've seen how Stormboard can be used as a collaborative whiteboard, and also to an extent as a social environment. Students can come in, they can leave comments for each other, they can like or unlike items. They can do that kind of sharing that you'd want them to be able to do. There does not, though, at this point seem to be a way to share audio outside of embedding it in a YouTube clip. That would probably be something that, as a music teacher, I'd want to see them do. But I'd like to show you some other examples of what can be done. One thing that can be done is to simply provide a source of content on a subject and allow students to make their own decisions. So I quickly made a Stormboard broken into 3 sections, and in the first section I describe essentially the instrument of a harpsichord. I talk about what the harpsichord is. A harpsichord is a horizontal hop where the strings are plucked not by the fingers but by a pick, the plectrum. And then I give some further information in the form of a Wikipedia entry. I include some nice images, which the bigger the image, the slower it loads. And I talk about the mechanism that plucks the strings. And more importantly, I talked about how the harpsichord could not play gradiated dynamics. It couldn't play a slow crescendo or a diminuendo. It pretty much just played loud and soft, and why that aspect of the harpsichord would be perfect for maybe a polyphonic composition where the voices were essentially equal. And as an example of a composer who wrote extensively for the harpsichord, I gave some information on Bach, picture, short bio, video, and so on. And then lastly, I gave some examples of harpsichord music. And in panel 3, I did something similar with the piano. I talk about the piano, how it was built, who built the escapement mechanism, why it allowed people to play soft and loud and things in between. Here's Cristofori. And I also talk about a composer who used this. So we have Beethoven here, and well, that's why he's very heroic there. Where are the small park marks? I don't see them. And we give a little bio and other information, and a very funny video by Victor Borgia on the piano, which was probably not strictly necessary. And in the middle, I gave some kind of activities for them to do. I kind of bring the two together and contrast them. And then here I can even provide an assignment. Now, one of the things that the education version of this does not let you do currently is to add documents. So I would prefer to be able to paste in an article for them to read directly, or to add a document that had a homework assignment that they could download, for instance. Right now, it doesn't really let you do that, so that would have to exist in your learning management system, and when they came here, then they'd have to have that document available. I'd really like it centralized here. And they do that function, but not with the type of account they're giving to educators right now, not without spending a lot of money, and I think it's an important feature, along with sound. And I just wanted to also point out this cute little kind of mini version of the gallery of the board space here, and it lets me kind of zoom around to the spaces I want, and to move in and out. So this is a handy navigation tool. So this is one thing you can create, is essentially a space to allow the students to examine content and concepts freely. Let's look at another one. And if I go to Home, I can find all of my storms. So here's another storm. And I think this is also a really useful way you could use this technology. So here I have a 4-section Stormboard. I've labeled the first one monophonic, and I've had to label it with a pin because I can't change the template. So I can't actually put 1, monophonic. Again, something that you'd really want to be able to do if you were a faculty, and I could if I had a business license. 2 is polyphonic, 3 is homophonic, and source files. I've also included brief little video tutorials on different musical textures. But what is great about this is if I was in class, I wouldn't even have to share this. I wouldn't have to have students collaborating online, though I certainly could. What I would do is I would just pull up an example and say, well, let's listen to the first example. Okay, is that monophonic, homophonic, or polyphonic? Well, to me, it sounds like there's a melody in the foreground and some accompaniment, so we'll put it over with homophonic, and then you can find a nice Hildegard here, and single melody, trippy colors. That sounds like monophonic to me. And you could go through a series of clips from many places, many styles, things that they would recognize, and put them into different areas on your Stormboard. But this doesn't have to simply be monophonic, homophonic, polyphonic. It could be, different periods. It could be classical, baroque, romantic. It could be different subsections. It could be different composers, and you could talk about different style traits and different composers. It could be different theorists writing about different theoretical concepts relating to music, and then you could say, well, this theorist is postulating a more constructivist view, and this theorist is talking about a more guided view, or and things of that would be a really effective way to use this space, and this can be used in class, face-to-face. You just broadcast this up on your screen in the class, and you walk the students through this. Of course, this kind of thing doesn't have to happen just face-to-face. Say you wanted to do these same sorts of activities online by breaking your students into groups. Well, I could create multiple copies of my musical texture, Stormboard, and assign each one to different groups of students. So here's one. I'm going to make a copy and call it, copy. And it has all the same information on it, minus any commentary or comments that have been added in the past. But in this copy, I could maybe go in and add a bunch of different other pieces. So each group could have other pieces. So depending on how much you wanted to get in there and customize this, you could create quite a variety. So this is a great tool with multiple uses. And as I mentioned, I do have some reservations, some of which I've touched upon as I've gone through. And you'll see those a little later in the write-up.